You ready to do this, Steve?
Let's do it, Spence. Punch it, Chewy.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Hey, friends, what's up?
We're two best friends. Despite being fathers and husbands, we refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 31. We release every Thursday morning on iTunes, Google, and Stitcher. Thank you for joining us, Steve. We are officially 31 flavors, man. Go get you a scoop.
That's awesome, man. I actually, I went to a Baskin-Robbins this week. My buddy at work and I, Ed Beck, we went out for a extendo lunch, and we actually had to go to 3 different places because one, they were like cleaning the ice cream cooler or whatever, and it was all like melted and crap. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy this.
What?
Like, no, it's fine. I'm like, I'm not buying this stuff. The worker behind the desk, and he's like spraying all this like cleaner stuff in the other half. I'm like, no way. What? It's disgusting. A little 409 on my mint chocolate chip. So we actually finally went to this one closer to work, and they had this one flavor, and it was called like Grandma's Cookie something. I'd never had it before, but it was like snickerdoodles and like caramel ribbon in this like cream cheese ice cream. It was awesome. It was so good. Oh my gosh.
Sounds really good.
Let
me ask you this,
mother
though.
for one. What?
You go to Baskin-Robbins, or BR as we call it occasionally.
Really?
Did I
say that?
We don't want to say the whole thing. You shorten it up, BR. So let me ask you this:
acronyms.
Do you stick to like the same flavors, that you're used to, or do you travel down different roads and try something different?
I always think I'm going to travel down different roads, so I sample a bunch of things that I'm never going to buy. I'm like, ooh, yes, let me try the Black Forest Raspberry Cherries Jubilee. I'm like, yeah, no. But I always end up coming back to either mint chocolate chip, which is my all-time, just a standby. It's a nice after-dinner flavor, has a nice finish. And also chocolate peanut butter, man. I am such a sucker for like a good peanut butter chocolate ice cream.
Don't go chasing black cherry jubilees. Stick to the mint chocolate chip that you're used to.
TLC, man. BR and TLC come together as one. Wasn't that song about like AIDS or something?
I don't know what this
like
song's about.
It's like a horrible video of like the music
Waterfalls?
video. He's like in front of like the mirror and he looks all sickly, and it's like STDs or something. Anyway.
I don't remember. Well, that's awesome thought now, as I'm going to try to not talk about ice cream and think about ice cream and STDs.
STD, BRT. What up, G?
Get some BR. No, I'm kind of like you, man. I go to Baskin-Robbins and I always end up with the same thing. I get 2 scoops of mint chocolate chip and a scoop of daiquiri ice every single time.
Nice. You go for a 3-scooper.
The reason is this, is that my grandmother, my mom's mom, my grandma Voorhees, turned me onto that daiquiri ice flavor like years and years ago when I was like a wee lad. And I enjoy it, but I want mint chocolate chip. And so like I like both. So like if I have, I'll eat the daiquiri ice first and then I want mint chocolate chip. But I usually find like 1 scoop of mint chocolate chip just doesn't satisfy my desire for mint chocolate chip. So I go 3 scoops.
So do you really get the daiquiri to like honor your grandmother or something? Is this some kind of like
no, like
guilt,
I actually
like you've got to do this?
No, I actually enjoy it. I enjoy daiquiri ice from the BR.
Guilt ice cream. That's awesome.
No, but it's just like I love it. I really do. But like it's like my second love, and so like I want it. And I want to get a taste of it.
You have like an affair.
But then it's like
an ice cream
I'm like halfway through that scoop of ice cream and I'm looking over. I'm like, ooh, I got my side piece, my main dish, that mint chocolate chip I got to get to. Oh, and it ain't good enough with 1 scoop. I need 2.
Yeah. It's expensive though, man. Baskin-Robbins, it's like, you get a few scoops of ice cream. It's like $5-6. I'm like, I could go over to like Jewel or like Albertsons or something and get like some Ben and Jerry's or some deans or whatever. So it's funny because I at church, I actually work with the 12 and 13-year-old young men. And whenever somebody new comes into the class, which happened today, we always have to say like your name, your favorite ice cream, and your favorite superhero. I always make them say those things. And today I threw one out that made everybody laugh. I was like, and Wonder Woman. And the other team teacher was a dude. He's like, nice call, man. That's right.
That's funny.
Oh,
that
very
is
cool.
Funny.
You know, it's part of the mantra or the I don't know, the motto of the show about never growing up. It's funny because, you know, we're talking about ice cream and all this, and I took my kids to Six Flags a few times this week, and I'm actually, you know, hours away from taking my oldest son Carter up to scout camp for the week. And it's kind of funny because I almost feel kind of like Christmas, like Eve, like you're really excited, and like he and I, like, we spent like all week kind of getting ready and like getting everything packed, and we've got like everything sprayed down with all like this repellent to make sure no ticks or bugs or whatever, and we've got like knives and all this just like man stuff, right? And it's the first time I've really been able to take him, just he and I, on like an extended trip, and it's kind of this cool coming of age, not for him so much, but it is, but more for like me as a father, being like, it's man time. You know, we're going to go up and eat beef jerky and stink like B.O.
Just a word of advice. If you guys kill a pig and you like plant a staff in the ground and put the pig's head on there, he's coming for you. I'm just saying.
Right, exactly.
He's coming for you.
He and his little cohort friends, Lord of the Flies.
He's like, give me the conch shell. You know,
Right.
You know you're in trouble. You're like, what conch shell? What are you talking about? I got a cell phone.
He's like, kill him.
Well, that's exciting though. It's cool that you guys are doing that, and like it's cool because I know because of your position with the young men that you would be doing this anyway because of that. But it's cool that you get to experience this with Carter.
Yeah, and it's cool too because he's 11, so he's not actually technically supposed to go, but I'm going up for the week, so he can go, and he gets to jump on all these merit badges, which is great. You know, kind of propel him into his scouting career and on towards Eagle. So.
That's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
It'll be a good time for you guys.
Yeah.
Now, are you guys going to Napawan?
Nah, no, we don't. That's a different council. That's back when, what was that, 3 Rivers or 2 Fires? I don't remember what council we were part of.
3 Rivers, 2 Fires, 1 Porta Potty, whatever the council was called.
No, we were going up to a camp called Camp Makajawan, which is about 5 hours north in kind of the dead center, maybe a little bit north center of Wisconsin. Past Green Bay and stuff, and it's on a lake, and I've checked the weather though, and it's like raining like 5 out of the 6 days we're there, and it's in like the upper 50s. So I'm like, oh, that's going to be great to do the swim test the first day.
Well, I'll be thinking about you when I'm sweating in the upper 90s here this week.
Nice.
Not really, no.
No, for me, I'm saying.
Yeah, for you. Yeah, for you, not for me.
Oh yeah, no, sucks for you. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's anyway, cool. What else has been going on, man?
Work busy, very busy. We have like 5 interns. We're actually part of. I don't know if I talked about this last time, but we are part of this group called the All-Star Group, where
kind of I know that one. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play.
You're full of the
that
90s tunes, man. TLC, Joan Go Chasing
all
Waterfalls.
All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold.
Kicking some blues travel, maybe Hootie and the Blowfish, maybe like, Princess who adore you. And then there's it now. The Spin Doctor?
Spin Doctors?
So no. So this is a group where it's an organization that's set up, and I think it's nationwide, but it's been very big in Chicago. And they take these students that have done an application process and an essay process and have qualified to become an all-star. And so they basically get teamed up with a business, a white-collar business, either downtown or in the suburbs, and they get to come and be an intern for 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. We're getting 3 of these individuals, and we had them last year. And so we went to this kind of luncheon type thing that kind of kicks off the program, raised like $600,000, and heard some talks, some speeches from some of these youth that had participated previously, and they are just like heart-wrenching. Like this one girl who's probably 16, she's like, yeah, I saw my brother shot and killed in front of our house. Like he was like 6 years old. I was like, oh my, it was like just wrench, and these kids, they live in the kind of the inner city of Chicago. They're like probably 2 miles from like downtown, the Loop and the financial district where all, kind of commerce takes place.
Yeah.
And yet it's like, they might as well be a world away, right? They have no idea what goes on in those buildings. One of the kids was like, yeah, I'd see these guys in suits walking around with these briefcases. I thought they were delivery guys. I thought they were just delivering whatever in those briefcases all around the city. So that's how far removed they are. And so it's really a kind of a cool opportunity for them to come and to see how an office functions and get an experience in business. So that happened, and which is awesome. They come this week. I'm excited about that, though I won't be there to welcome them in, but we've got people for that. And then lastly, I did a charity auction for a group called RIA, which is the real estate investment.
Dia?
Exactly. I said the same thing. I'm like, you guys gotta change your name, because it does not produce images of pleasure.
I got the RIA.
And so I did a charity auction for them where, it was on the penthouse of this.
Did the auction go smoothly?
It did.
Was it a quick auction? Did everything seem to flow naturally, and you were able to get everyone out of there pretty quickly?
It was a little spicy, actually. Burn going out. But no, we actually sold a bunch of paraphernalia. We sold like an Anthony Rizzo jersey. We sold a Blackhawks kind of green jersey. We sold some Bulls paraphernalia. We sold a Jimmy Butler basketball, a signed basketball, the night he got traded. Everybody's like, yep, he got traded. I'm like, it's a collector's item. They're like, boo! So,
probably a good thing, though, that they traded him, by the way.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I agree. So anyway,
that
was fun.
Get value while you can and rebuild. Anyway.
Yep. Yeah. Get as much value as you can and kick him to the curb. So anyway, that was my week, but enough about little old me. How was your week?
My week was excellent and horrible all at the same time. Actually, it wasn't really horrible. It was excellent. So the day of Jubilee arrived this week, a day that I had been looking forward to for over 3 years now.
Wow. Tell me. The Switch already came. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's not the Switch, no.
Okay.
Jackson has no longer... How to put this? Jackson is no longer a mommy's boy. Like, I had Charlie years ago. Charlie's my boy. We're close. We're tight. But Jackson, just wouldn't, I'd say, Jackson, come here, come give me huggins. No, I give mommy a hug. And he'd run from me. I'm like, all right, sorry, man. Didn't mean to upset you. I was like, Jackson, can I have a kiss? No kiss. Okay, man. Can I give you a hug and say goodnight? No, mommy says night. I'm like, all right, man, relax. But sometime this week, I don't know why, but all of a sudden, now he just started coming up to me and giving me a hug and giving me a kiss and telling me that he loves me. And this is all out of the blue. This is not normal behavior.
You paid him.
And now, no, yeah, right. Here's $5, man. But now, he wants to hang out with me. He wants to sit with me. He wants to if I'm laying down on my stomach and I'm looking at my phone, right before he goes to bed, he'll try to crawl into the little arm space where I'm kind of sitting down and just cuddle up in a little ball and wants to look at the pictures on my phone.
Aww.
So I let him look at the pictures of himself, which seems a little narcissistic because it's me, Jackson. I'm like, yeah, it's you. He's like, and me, and me, and me. I'm like, yeah, buddy, you're just looking at yourself over and over again. But anyway, so that was great, but now I can't walk more than 3 feet out of a room without him running to see where I've gone. Let me just tell you, it gets really awkward when I have to run upstairs to get to the bathroom, because if I don't run, he will follow me right in. It's like, buddy, I gotta go potty. No. It's like, dude, come on. I'm like, I drank 3 gallons of water. Please let me go.
Exactly. Part of this new organization that Steve made me join.
Right. Everything's going smoothly. So anyway, that's been awesome. It's been so much fun, just getting all this extra time with him. But of course, Jackson and Charlie and Brita are leaving at the end of this upcoming week on Friday, the day after the podcast releases, to go visit her parents up in Montana for a week. So, cool. I'm going to be curious to see how Jackson does. I mean, he'll probably be great and fine because his cousins will be there and his brother will be there and, Gigi and Poppy. But then again, when he comes home, he may not let go of me for 4 days straight. I don't know.
Have you been apart from him for that long? I mean, yet?
Yes.
In his young life?
But he was always mommy's boy, so it didn't really matter. Now it's different.
So how will Charlie react to that being gone from you for so long?
He'll be fine for a little bit, but then like after the second day, he'll start asking where I'm at, where when is he going to see me, that sort of stuff. And so we'll do some Google Duo on the phones and get to see one another, that sort of thing. But,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's sad that they're going to be gone for that time, but like it will be awesome when they come back because it'll just be, cuddle with daddy time, big hugs, that sort of deal, right?
Yeah. So what's going to happen while they're gone, though? I mean, are you going to be,
I'm going to be living it up, man. Living it up.
You lock
in
the door,
New York City.
Unplug the phones.
Yeah. Whatever I want to do, man. I'm a bachelor for the week.
Walking around in your underwear, eating chicken wings.
Whatever. So let's see what else happened this week. Steve,
yes.
Do you know the word pyrography?
I don't, but Google does.
Let me switch then out of fire. Let me switch out of the High Elven tongue, and I'll put it in the common speech of Westerness. It's called wood burning, and I have ordered a wood burning kit that should be arriving shortly, probably before the podcast drops. It's something I've been like looking at for on and off a couple of years, like just kind of like a cool, like a little hobby, something to do, something to try. And it's going to cost me like $20 to get the wood burning pen with a bunch of different like tips for it. And then I spent like $5 to get some carbon paper. So basically I was watching some videos and talking to a few people because I saw this really cool like Lord of the Rings like placard. And it says, not all that wander are lost, which is, a quote right out of Tolkien's book Fellowship of the Ring. And I saw this and I was like, that's really cool. And the person's like, yeah, it's super easy. She's like, you put down the image over some carbon paper, you trace it, and then you follow the lines and then you fill it in. I was like, really? Huh. So, of course, I don't have a place to do this in the house. And I started thinking, maybe I'll make a little space out in the garage to do this.
You don't have like a workbench in the garage or anything like that?
Not really. And my garage is pretty small.
Yeah.
It fits my wife's car and my motorcycle. And just barely that because like we've got all this other stuff like the lawnmower and weed whacker and the snow blower and like kids' little balance bikes and the extra fridge that's out there. And like everything's been encroaching in, right?
Yeah.
Well,
you just kind of like wedge your cars in there. You're like, hope it doesn't scratch anything.
Right, exactly. So yesterday I started a big project of cleaning everything out of the garage I possibly could. I loaded up, and now I started yesterday. I finished like 2 hours ago.
Wow.
It took me like 2 days because I pretty much did it all by myself. But like I filled up my truck 3 times, like the entire bed of my truck. What I would normally take to the dump, but there's this big dumpster like right down the street from us because we had some trees blow over in the neighborhood. So I unloaded my junk into that and got rid of a whole bunch of stuff, and I took some pictures of some stuff that I'm going to sell online and kind of got them positioned so I can kind of get them out fast if I sell them. But I cleaned up everything. I swept out the entire thing. So like it's like spick and span in there. And I've got a desk in there now. And so I got a little workbench area. I'm going to put a light out there to make it a little more convenient. I think I'm going to put a little like radio out there. And I'm just kind of giving myself a little workspace that I can go and do some projects on, or if I need to do something, or if I just need to get away. I got a little space to do that now. So anyway,
what's interesting about that is I remember, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, you were talking about how you had looked into some other hobby called like hobo coins or something like that, or
yes,
coins.
It's very similar kind of an idea.
Yeah, so you're like etching into coins and whatnot. Here's my conclusion. You got too much dang time on your hands. Man, who has time to be sitting around carving wood, cutting up coins, man? Good golly. You need more kids.
Yeah, right. Don't get a hobby, get a kid.
Exactly. I wanted a dog, I got a kid.
Your hobby's changing diapers.
Oh, man.
No, it's one of these things where like I was looking at it and I watched this guy. I watched like a 25-minute video. And like he was explaining what he was doing. Now, obviously, he's done this a little bit. But he was explaining what he did in 25 minutes, start to finish, he did like this whole like thing, and it looked like really nice. It was this kind of like anime character that he burned into a piece of wood, and it was, it was just kind of cool. So anyway, I figured it's $20, man, to get the thing.
Yeah.
And I got some spare wood, and the Boy Scouts, like, we can always get our hands on like scrap wood, and so I'll practice a little bit, and if I get any good at it, I may dabble my hand. Now, the real cool thing is this: I saw online a coffee table, probably like 5 feet across coffee table, probably about like 3 feet deep or whatever.
Right.
And this person had burned into the top of it the entire map of Middle Earth. And
wow. It
was meticulous. It was beautiful. And I was like, Brita, look at this. And she looked at it. She goes, I'd have that in our house. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this. So.
That's cool. And what's cool about it as well is like, that is actually like a craft. That is actually like,
right.
Like a trade, like something that you can actually, you could make gifts for some of the young men in your congregation, that maybe that are Boy Scouts, when they're going to Eagle, you could do like this cool eagle on a plaque and just say like, fly high or, whatever. You could do plaques for your boys. I don't know. Because what's cool, I actually have a stool upstairs that my grandfather, my grandpa Don Winnicky, made for me in 1979. And he etched my name with a wood burning thing. He was a carpenter by trade, into the top. So it says Sam, Stephen Adam Madura. And then on the bottom it says, Grandpa Don or something like that. And this is 1979. And that's like a cherished thing, right? Now, he could have made just a stool. I've got 2 stools from his brother who made me some stools.
Sure.
And they're just stools. But he made them and they're nice. But this stool from my grandfather, like, it is so special. And my kids use it. My kids use it to, like, stand up on the thing and brush their teeth. And that just touches my heart that, like, that was something that he made. And there's something about working with wood that's different than anything else. That's like a natural, it's different than clay. It's different than metal. It's different than whatever. It's like just a piece of the earth, right? And it's very, malleable, and it's, I don't know, there is really something satisfying about working with wood.
Are you saying that wood is different because it's part of the earth and clay and metal are not part of the earth?
Exactly what I am not saying. Don't try to trap my words, fool, man. What are you, Mr. Wizard? No, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's warm and it's earthy and not cold like metal and not, I don't know, artsy,
sticky and nasty and like clay.
Oh, my love, my darling.
I made this for you. It's a bowl. You're like,
about.
No thanks. No, I'm good.
Listen, Patrick Swayze.
It's like Arrested Development. It's like Arrested Development. No, is it Arrested Development? He's like, no, Swayze. No, that's a Community. That's Community.
Yeah, Swayze. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like any ghosting in here and you're out of here.
What's also funny is that I always listen to comedians. That's my thing. Like whenever instead of like listening to music or whatever else, I just throw on like a comedian. I'm just all about it. And, if I have like free time and I'm doing something around the house, I'll just listen to a comedian. Brian Regan has this great skit or great, maybe it was Brian Regan or it's Jerry Seinfeld, but about wood burning. He's like, what was it about the toys of our day? He's like, the wood burning? Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Like, let's have a pen that heats up to 500 degrees Celsius and the cord is about 2 feet long. So you have to plug it in somewhere near the drapes while you're working on it. Like, so good luck with that. Don't burn the house down.
Yeah, I'll be in the garage. I'll have a fire extinguisher right next to me.
Dang, Skippy. Right,
by fire extinguisher, I mean I'll spit on it.
Exactly, right next to the gas canisters for the lawnmower and the snowblower.
actually, just move them to the other side.
Oh, nice, Right. Very cool. Well, anything else with your week?
No,
Any
man.
other
The rest of my week
odd hobbies that you're going to be picking?
I don't know, but remember pyrography. That's the word of the day. So every single time we say it, you got to yell it out. Ah! Little
Mine was much higher
nod.
than yours, oddly enough.
Yeah. There you go. Hey, they dropped. Congratulations. Anyway, so this show's a little different than our normal shows because we're actually recording a few days earlier than normal because Steve is going to be out of town all next week with the Boy Scouts and his spray-on DEET stuff all over his clothes. Right. So we hope you don't die. We hope you don't get bitten by a tick and get some sort of Lyme disease. But because of that, we're
you.
recording early, and there's no telling where this show may go.
This could be a post-mortem, like, rest in peace. This show is dedicated to Steve Madura.
Right. This is the last thing he ever said or did in public. Great.
They dropped.
Right, they dropped. All right, Steve. Well, let's move on to Rebel Intelligence. What do you say?
Let's do it.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Steve, favorite part of the podcast. How about you kick us off, man?
All right, first reactions are in to Spider-Man Homecoming, and they are overwhelmingly positive.
Really?
I read through some of them, and it was actually really good to hear, because, while I thought the trailer looked good, and I thought, they can make trailers look fantastic and the movie can suck. So, but yeah, I read through a lot of the threads, and, my favorite one is there's this old picture of the original Spider-Man cartoon. It's like mind equals blown, and there's a bunch of like explosions around him. But they said that Tom Holland did a great job, really well cast. There was a good mix of kind of high school drama and Avenger style action. Great crowd pleaser, best Marvel movie, one of the best Marvel movies made. So
wow.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. And here's the cool thing about this movie. Like, it comes out and Breida's going to be on vacation, which means that I don't have to get a babysitter. Well, right. No, but like Breida loves this kind of stuff. So like, that's one of the cooler things about my wife is that like, I know any movie that I really want to go see, she wants to go see.
Yep.
Now, the downside of that is that means we always have to get a babysitter. Or like I go on a Friday night and she goes on a Saturday night, but we like to go together. So it's a lot of babysitting. But she's going to be gone in Montana, so I don't have to get a babysitter. I can just pick a night and go.
That is awesome.
I'm excited.
They said, one of the overwhelming things as well, one of the resounding themes that came from all these threads that I read through was everybody said the humor was great. They said one of the best humorous Marvel movies yet, which is awesome.
Really?
I'm excited to see it. Yeah.
That's interesting because Guardians of the Galaxy, that first one I thought had a lot of humor.
That's true. That's very true.
So we'll see
how it stacks up against Guardians of the Galaxy. So.
Although that hug gag in the limo that I've I've said I've seen it like 1,000 times on that trailer.
Like
dude, it still makes me laugh. It's just I like sometimes like the awkward stuff. Like we've been watching Parks and Rec lately again. Parks and Recreation, for those that don't know. Little PR. Parks and Rec, little P&R, or as we like to call it, Tommy's Place. I don't know if you remember that, where like Tom talks about like how he shortened it from Parks and Recreation to Parks and Rec, and then P&R, and then he calls it Tommy's Place. Anyway, it's a dumb little thing. Anyway, but I love it on that show because they do the kind of the humor where like, they make something really, really like awkward, and then like a character will say like, "Nope, I didn't do that," or like that's not happening. Like the whole thing between like Leslie and Ben. She's like, "Ron, we're not dating." He's like, "How long have you been? Have you been together?" She's like, "What? We're not together." And like a split second later, Ben walks in, like starts hugging her around the waist and goes to kiss her. And he's like, "Oh, hey, Ron." And I love that like awkward, like we just said we're not doing this, and then someone walks in and does that thing. So
that is awesome.
It just it cracks me up. Anyway, so like I hope that there's a lot of like kind of that because I feel like that hug gag kind of falls in that same kind of like whoa, like this is not what this is supposed to be.
And I think there will be with him being an awkward teenager and all of that. I think there definitely will be. So they'll play that up.
So anyway,
what do you got?
This week's been really, really weird for me with the old Han Solo standalone movie because earlier in the week, the two directors that were going to be doing the movie were fired. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were basically fired, and like it kind of was like this. There was things being said of why and not, and then eventually Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm, just came out and said like, it's creative differences, and they were like, no, we were fired. And so then they made a statement that said, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are talented filmmakers who have assembled an incredible cast and crew, but it's become clear that we had different creative visions on this film, and we've decided to part ways. A new director will be announced soon. Unfortunately, our vision and process weren't aligned with our partners on the project. We normally aren't fans of the phrase creative differences, but for one, this cliche is true. We're really proud of the amazing world-class work of our cast and crew. So that was, and that the second half of that statement was from Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. So like this happens, right? And then like the next day, like the rumor mill's going, like, you know, who's gonna be taking over?
Ben
who's
Affleck.
gonna be?
I'm kidding.
Right? They're like, who's gonna be directing? It could be this, and it could be this, and this person's in the running, and this person's in the running. Well, then like a day, maybe even a day and a half later, they announced who was going to be directing it. The new director of the Han Solo standalone movie is none other than Ron Howard.
Boom,
Now,
baby.
Right? I mean, let's be honest. If you're going to get a director, I think at this point, like, you got to get someone who's well-known, well-established. And Ron Howard is a well-established director. So he's basically come in and he put out something on Twitter, just basically saying like, you know, we have a wonderful script, an incredible cast and crew, an absolute commitment to make a great movie. Filming will resume 10th of July. You know, I hope to honor the great work already done, blah, blah, blah. So he's saying that he's going to still deliver the movie on time. Of course, if that doesn't happen, I'm okay if it's delayed. I would rather it be good than it being like bad, just to make a deadline. But apparently, so there's, I'm trying to see here where it was, because I read this. They're like, apparently like they've been filming for like 4 months. And so right now they're kind of taking a break while Ron Howard goes and reviews like all the footage that's already been shot.
I read that. Yep. And he's talking to the actors and trying to make sure the baton gets passed easily. Right.
Just to make sure that it's a nice smooth transition. Yes. And so like it's interesting because Ron Howard, I mean, has directed some big budget movies. I mean, obviously, like he did Apollo 13, right? That's a big budget movie. I mean, he's done a bunch of other stuff. You know, he was in American Graffiti, which was a George Lucas film originally. You know, he actually was like slated at one point to do Episode 1 Phantom Menace, but then George Lucas decided to take the reins of that and did it himself. Probably a good thing Ron didn't do that one.
And don't forget that he also directed Willow for producer George Lucas as well.
That's exactly right.
Willow, you idiot.
Mad Mortigan! Yes.
Not a woman!
Peck!
We go this way! That's a great movie.
I love that movie. Anyway, so Ron Howard, like a tumultuous week. Like they fire their current directors. There's all this kind of like back and forth, like what it was and what was going on. And then a lot of names being floated. And then Ron Howard's in the seat and they're off and running and he's working. So
let me ask this, Spence.
Crazy.
So Ron Howard's entree into this movie, what does that do for you? Does that change your view of the movie? Does it better or worse? I mean, what does it add credibility? I mean, what is it?
See, here's the thing. I don't know that it changes my view of the movie because the movie is not done even being filmed, right? But when you hear that there's like creative differences, and I read another article, and they were saying like basically the directors wanted to go one way, and it was starting to get maybe a little too outlandish, maybe a little too crazy. They're like, no, like you got to pull this back. Like we need to. There's certain things this character needs to do, certain beats that the film needs to hit. You want, okay, I gotta step this back. Rogue One came out, and we don't know anything about any of these characters, you know, Jyn Erso. We don't know anything, you know, Cassian Andor. We don't know anything about these characters. And their story fits into a sliver of time, and it helps kind of bridge a narrative gap between two other movies.
Yep.
And it really doesn't detract from the other movies. And it's not established characters. So if that movie would have flopped or not been good or just been okay, that's fine. The Han Solo movie, though, this standalone, is going back in time, and fans want to see certain things. Mm-hmm. I'm sure also the studio doesn't want to have certain things screwed up because this is a character. So, like, if they break something in the timeline or do something that's not congruous to the character, and doesn't fit, his personality, then it's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah, the true fans are going to get up in arms and
right. So I'm assuming that they kind of the studio felt that some of that was maybe going on and they wanted some changes and the changes weren't being made. And so they're like, okay, well, we got to cut our losses because this is a big intellectual property. We can't blow this. And they have every right to do that. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, I know Ron Howard's work. I trust him. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I mean, I would just think like if Superman, all the tumult that's happened with the new film and directors being changed and shifted and what you start to get a little uneasy. I think about what the finished product's going to look like.
You're thinking of the new Batman? You mean?
I'm sorry, the new Batman. Yeah, but if Spielberg was to step in and be like, you know what, I got this, I'd be like, all right, it's on.
Right.
So I just feel like Ron Howard has that kind of weight that says it's going to be okay. This is going to be a great movie. So
as long as he fits in a Gary Indiana reference with him singing Gary Indiana, I doubt that'll happen.
Or a little Music Man reference. I like that.
Yeah. All right, what do you got
Mr.
for me?
C, where's the Fonz? What do I got for you? This is kind of a funny one, but I saw something this week about Spaceballs. Speaking of kind of the Star Wars theme, a little dovetail.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Spaceballs, the flamethrower. That kids love this one. Great movie. I love it. And I read this funny little article that talked about how Bill Pullman, who played Lone Star, he was the Han Solo parody character. He actually had never seen Star Wars before he did the film. And,
wow.
Yeah, and you think like, what? First of all, like, were you under a rock? Because he's not like he wasn't in Hollywood and in movies and in film but yeah, it had been made years before Spaceballs ever came out. It was like a decade old at that time. But he's like, yeah, I've just kind of missed it the first time around. And he's like, Mel told me everything that was going on. I didn't need to see Star Wars to get the whole thing. And I was just like,
wow.
So does this mean that he was just that gifted of an actor that he just could kind of go along with it and the story was very general? Or on the other hand, was Bill Pullman just a lazy, apathetic actor that didn't, just like, right. Yeah, whatever.
That's interesting.
So, I don't know. Huh. So anyway, I grew up watching Spaceballs, loving it, and just kind of a funny thing. Doesn't really change anything. It's just kind of a weird, kind of funny little trivia pink pie piece. So
right. So speaking of like weird trivia, like why does this really matter?
Right.
J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, it's a little book series. Maybe you've heard of it. Nope. It's been around. Yeah, it's about a boy. He's a wizard. He ends up defeating some other wizards.
It'll
saves the universe. Yeah, probably not going to do much, right? Anyway, she released this news on her Pottermore website that Harry Potter wasn't the only wizard to have had that name. That apparently, like, many decades before, he had a relative that went by the name of Henry Potter, but everyone called him Harry. And he also had a invisibility cloak that he happened to pass down through his family line until the Harry that we all know and love received it. So the headlines I saw this week were like, J.K. Rowling reveals a second wizard named Harry Potter. I'm like, ooh, maybe this is like a doppelganger story. And we realize that the real Harry Potter's been locked in a trunk this whole time. And this doppelganger's been using polyjuice potion. Nope.
It was all a dream?
Right.
Nope.
Just basically an old relative had the same family name. And I was like, okay. Why do we care?
So do you kind of feel like this might be J.K. Rowling's attempt to just kind of stay in the news, stay relevant? I mean, I kind of feel like there have been some recent books that have come out that are kind of just, I don't want to say money grabs, but I want to say money grabs.
Well, here's the thing. I mean,
Doesn't she have blood enough?
Well, yeah. First of all, I think she's like the richest person in all of England, maybe besides the Queen. So, I think she's okay in that front. But she wrote the whole book series, and then like she branched out and wrote something else. And I don't really remember what it was, but she wrote something under like a pseudonym because she wanted to see if it was going to stand on its own for its literary work and not just the name J.K. Rowling. But obviously it like leaked out and a bunch of people got it. Then, she did kind of like the little Tales of Beetle the Bard and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, like these like little kind of companion books that are mentioned in the main series of books. I'm okay with that, right? I'm fine. And then she writes the play, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is now coming over here, and I'm sure at some point it's going to be licensed and made into a movie. So I'm still kind of okay with that. But then she also has, that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them movie that came out, and there's going to be a couple more movies. And I get that people are clamoring for more, more Harry Potter, more, the Wonderful Wizarding World type of stuff. I get that.
Right.
And it's making her tons of money, so like why not? Ride that cash cow out. I'm fine with all that. But it's like the release of like a little minute detail about a relative of Harry's from like generations earlier that happened to share the same name. Oh, shocker. I mean, what does that really do? How does that really affect the main story? How does that affect the series that you love? I mean, to me, it does nothing. So I don't know if it's to keep her name kind of out there and floating kind of in the zeitgeist so people are still kind of like remembering it. So when the next movie comes out in the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them kind of, lineage, people are still thinking Harry Potter or Henry Potter.
Seems like an agent move. He's like, listen, JK, here's what we're going to do. Every quarter we'll release something,
Maybe she's going to get in league with the people that do the Potter Pals, and she's going to do something. Hey, Ginny, why don't you cut your hair? I really like it in a short bob.
That's right. Snape, Severus Snape, Dumbledore. All right. One thing that I thought was kind of funny, that was just another little odd little snippet, was that it came out, I don't know if it's recently, but the FBI, starting back some
the
time
Fun
ago,
Bagel Institute?
That's right. Starting back in, I want to see, let's make sure I'm right on this. Back in the 80s. Okay, back in the 80s, they began to monitor the co-creator of Dungeons and Dragons, Gary Gygax, I think.
Yeah, Gary Gygax.
Gary Gygax. So this, and a little known fact, and I didn't know this until reading this, that Dungeons and Dragons was actually, the birthplace was actually in a sleepy lakeside town just over the Illinois border, just like an hour from me, in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, of all places.
LGWI, what's up?
Shout out to Lake Geneva. But anyway, so the FBI started kind of monitoring this Dungeons and Dragons group because they thought that it was a front for cocaine trafficking. And so they have all these documents of like, there's, this loosely knit group of individuals commonly referred to as the quote-unquote Dungeons and Dragons group. And then later, years later, they actually, in September 95, they had similar documents that said that they were actually using Dungeons and Dragons to track the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, who was then captured the following year. And there's this quote that says that, let me see here, says he's described as eccentric and frightening, potentially armed and known as a member of the Libertarian Party. So it's just funny that they like in lockstep, Dungeons and Dragons, you're eccentric, frightening, and possibly armed and dangerous. I'm like,
and smuggling cocaine,
and mailing, bombs to people for about a decade. So, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, you could be on the blacklist with J. Edgar Hoover. So be careful.
So here's the interesting thing, right? We got the second season of Stranger Things coming out. Someone needs to warn those boys that they may be on the FBI watch list.
Right. Actually, that one is kind of the shifty eyes. Maybe he was eventually the Unabomber. You never know. I don't know.
Maybe. It's really funny because like I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, although like the whole like Dungeons and Dragons like role playing game thing obviously became really wildly popular, and that translated over into lots of video games, and now everyone and their dog plays all sorts of video games that like are inspired by the original Dungeons and Dragons. And I actually want to play Dungeons and Dragons and find a group and get into it. At least, give it a try, see what it's all about. But now I'm not so sure.
You're like second
the FBI that was like, so he's eccentric. He's owns some guns. He's got a podcast where he can disseminate his information.
Follow me, Lemmings!
He plays Dungeons and Dragons. Right.
He looks like a mass murderer.
He's got to be the guy we're looking for. Like, my name is not Abdullah Jamahula. I don't know. I'm just... Interesting. That's really funny. Poor old Gary Gygax.
I know.
Investigated by the FBI.
He just wanted to play some cards with his friends in the basement, man.
Just wanted something to do with some pals.
Be careful, man. Don't go starting a game.
Yeah. So I don't know, Steve, if you heard this. There was a rumor going around that was like a viral video got released this week. You remember Toy Story, the first movie of 1995, right? Andy
hugs at the old heartstrings even now.
Yeah. Andy and his mom and his little baby sister and Woody and Buzz and all the rest. Well, apparently there's a viral video going around saying the reason why Andy's dad isn't in the movie is that Andy's dad had polio as a kid. And that like 6 months...
That's horrible!
6 months before Andy was born, he had like polio postpartum syndrome, some sort of polio-related issue that came up, and like that's how he died. And so he's like, there's all these like little clues to like the way Andy was written on Woody's foot and things that are up there. And, Woody was actually, Andy Sr.'s toy and not, Andy Jr.'s toy. And so of course, like this guy says like, he was a consultant on the Toy Stories, and like Joe Rant, one of the guys that helped create Toy Story, who's dead and has been dead since like 2003. He's like, well, that's the story he told me. And then, of course, this other guy comes back out and is like, no, I co-wrote Toy Story 1, 2, 3, and I'm co-writing Toy Story 4. The idea that Andy's dad had polio and died of a polio-related complication is totally false. That was never the intended backstory. His dad just, there just was no dad at that point. Like, we never came up with anything. So, like, of course...
Andy was a test tube baby?
Right.
Let's start another rumor right here, right now.
So the funny thing is that like this is going to be one of those things because it went big. Like all sorts of people were sending me this. Like, did you hear this about Andy's dad? He had polio, and I'm like, well, let me do a little research. And I was like, no, he didn't have polio. But there's going to be people who are going to believe it. Yeah, there's going to be people who are going to believe that, and they're not going to take the truth for an answer.
What's interesting, though, is when you think about... I mean, I literally try to think about a Disney movie in recent years, or even past, like, that has two parents.
Moana. Both of Moana's parents are alive. Her grandmother dies.
That's a lie.
But both of her parents are there.
The only one that I could think of literally was like Sleeping Beauty, when both Aurora's parents are there, Like... But you think about like most, Little Mermaid,
Tangled, Frozen,
Aladdin,
Peter Pan, Aladdin,
Lion King, he dies. Like, Notre
Bambi,
Dame, like
Bambi's rough.
Bambi is rough.
Bambi, it's not like you're like, hey, this character doesn't have a mom or this character doesn't have a dad. It's like, oh, there's the mom. Nope, not anymore.
And all it is like the birds flutter up, and he's like, "What happened to my mom? Come with me, Bambi." You're like, "Oh,
right. Okay, Dad, let's have a relationship." Oh my gosh!
Hey, Thumper,
I can't make friends with anyone. Everyone I make friends with dies.
Seriously, what is it? Is it that Disney knows that to really pull at the heartstrings and make a movie like poignant, they have to have this emotional like gaping hole in the soul of the movie that's like, I have no father. Like,
you know,
is that the algorithm that works?
I'm not an expert, but I know that Walt and Roy Disney's father wasn't a really good father to them when they were children. He was a very harsh taskmaster, disciplinarian. And so, you know, he didn't get the love and affection type of father that he was probably wanting. And so I know that in a lot of the early stories, like, that kind of comes through and like you kind of see that. And then I think over the years, Disney has really just kind of played on that
capitalized?
theme.
It's called capitalized.
Right.
Exploited. I mean, whatever you want to call it.
It's formulaic. But if there's a missing parent or two missing parents, you're kind of telling the orphan story or the story, you know, of like, you know, I don't know who I am because, you know, I didn't know my father. And so like I'm searching and I'm yearning. And I mean, if you look at most of the animated Disney movies, it's almost always some sort of coming of age tale or some tale of self-discovery. Sure. I mean, that's what it is. I mean,
which is a common story. You know.
Right. I mean, even Moana was like a self-discovery coming of age tale, but both parents were alive and well.
But the grandma died.
She did die. Death. She was old, man. She lived a good life. Plus, she became a stingray.
You're like, we ain't gonna pay for her, man. She's too old. She just needs the coconut milk. Nope, she done.
Yeah. Although you do have the story of Maui, and Maui's parents like abandoned him and like threw him into like the ocean basically because they're like, this kid, and they got rid of him.
Eat us out of house and home.
Right. And the only reason he does what he does, trying to like raise all the islands and was like to win the affection of his parents. So, I mean, it is there in that movie, but not with Moana herself, the prime character.
That is true. That is true. And it's funny because my son has this book collection. It's like this hardbound book collection that is about different characters throughout history. You know, it's Alexander Graham Bell, and it talks about, you know, Thomas Edison about persistence, and George Washington about honesty and all these different things. And there is one about Walt Disney and I think it's about creativity. It's some principle. Each one teaches some principle, but it talks about their whole history, and it goes into like, at a child's level about how mean his father was, but it's very childlike. It's like, you know, had him do many things and work, you know, 12-hour days and all this stuff. And Walt actually ends up leaving with Roy at a very, very young age.
Right. Yeah.
Because of that. But it talks about it again in childlike terms, but in this story. And my son Addison took note of that. He's like, man, his dad was kind of a jerk. I'm like, yeah, he was. Now get to work.
Right.
This thing is going to shine like the top of the Chrysler building.
He's like, if that dad would have just had a midlife crisis and got a Corvette, he would have been okay.
Go buy a limo, Dad.
I found one on eBay.
It all comes full circle.
Speaking, though, of like drama in Disney movies, but not in this Disney movie, because it's not a Disney movie at all, Star Trek Discovery, the TV show that I want to watch, but I don't want to support, which is so weird and hard for me to say.
Right. They're
ditching a rule that has been pretty much in existence since Gene Roddenberry back on the original show in the 66 to 69 run. Gene Roddenberry obviously wants Star Trek to be a utopia, so he kind of had a rule that like main characters don't have a lot of conflict with one another, like a lot of drama. So like if you think back to Star Trek characters, I mean, maybe if like they were taken over by like an alien or, you know, they were drugged or something, then they would act differently. But I mean, you didn't have a lot of characters like the main bridge characters, like having a lot of drama and a lot of conflict with one another.
You're saying in the show, because
in the show,
Spock and Kirk have to like fight to the death, like
right? Yeah. They had a little bit more of that in the original series, but like as it went on with like Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager, like that was pretty much like it was just kind of Gene Roddenberry's kind of rule that everyone kind of kept up with. But Star Trek Discovery, they're going to drop that because they realize that having conflict between main characters, you know, is going to be you need to have it, and their show's going to be more serialized, so it's going to be like more like what happened in the last one affects the next episode versus like some of like the Next Generation's like, and we're at a different planet, and it's been 4 months since the last time you saw us, even though that was last week, and now we're doing this, and next week we're going to be doing something else with a crystal entity, and next week we're going to have the Traveler over here, and just a bunch of different stuff. But this is going to be more serialized, so they're going to drop the rule to make a little more drama and a little more conflict to give the characters a little more, pizzazz.
Just kill a parent or two. That'll do it.
Right. On front of them?
I thought I had my taser to stun.
Daddy? Yeah. Anything else, Steve?
Well, doesn't Kirk's parents die in the first movie? I mean, in the first new movie with Chris Pine? Don't they fly into like the vortex or whatever and kill themselves? Yeah,
the big Romulan ship takes over and kills his dad, and yeah.
Right. Man. Well,
anything else you got for us?
No more death and dismay. No, I think we're good. I've had enough.
Okay, I had one other small little story. 2 days ago, the Nintendo 64 turned 21. So the Nintendo 64 can officially drink, it can vote, it can go to war, it can do all the things that it's ever wanted to do and more.
GoldenEye, great game.
Oh, right. I mean,
great game.
I played a lot of N64 games, but that was the one.
That was the best. Little Punjab or whatever his name was, the Mr. Fiji.
You mean Odd Job?
Odd Job.
Punjab.
Post edit. What?
The guy from the Love Boat.
I was thinking of the guy from Little Orphan Annie. He's like, Punjab, get the rolls. Anyway.
Wow.
You'd have to see it. It's
apparently.
But I thought you would always be like that little Mr. Fuji guy or whatever his name was. Odd Job. Because he's a wrestler. Wasn't he a wrestler? He was like WWF. Yes, he was Mr. Fuji.
Oh, the wrestling manager, Mr. Fuji. Yes.
Yeah, but I liken him to that. But anyway, Odd Job. Yes, because he was small in the game, and so you shoot and you'd like shoot over him.
It's like that? I always wanted to be Mr. Miyagi when I played GoldenEye. Daniel-san, you got to kneel down.
Wax up. Daddy?
Daddy. Mom, what happened?
Yeah, I was going to say, and Daniel's son was without a dad. Man.
That wasn't a Disney movie, though. But yes. Yes.
Anyway, all right. So, congratulations. Happy birthday, N64.
Yes, congratulations on your birthday. Last week, Steve, you and I had a wonderful conversation.
A rousing discussion, yes.
Yes, an interesting back and forth as to who we thought was the best dad in nerd and pop culture. And we asked our listeners who they think is the best dad in nerd and pop culture. And we got a few responses, so let's start over on the email. All right, this one is from Chris Gifford, my mother-in-law. It's been a little while.
Nice.
A little while since we've heard from her.
Wait, she doesn't say you, does she?
What do you mean say you?
She doesn't say like you're the best. Oh, okay, just making sure.
Please. You know, I mean, I'm a good dad, but like, but in TV, nerd, pop culture. I mean, if that includes podcasters, maybe
you're kind of a pop icon now. You're kind of, you, Andy Warhol. I don't know.
So anyway, let's move off that. She says, John McClane in Die Hard. And then she says, haha. And then she's like, okay, for a few real picks. Ward Cleaver from Leave It to Beaver. Andy Taylor from The Andy Griffith Show. Charles Ingalls from Little House on the Prairie. Ben Cartwright from Bonanza. Steve Douglas from My Three Sons. And I could probably list more, none of which are politically correct, but I don't care. All these dads are from before the time in TV when fathers were made fun of as being stupid and inept and basic extraneous and bumbling idiots who couldn't function without the kids or mom pointing them in the right direction. She says, I'm generalizing, but you get the idea. The mom was the one that holds the family together and is the smart one, etc., etc. These guys were real men. They worked hard to take care of their families. They were all good and consistent disciplinarians, which a lot of today's kids could use more of. But they were fair and loving and were not afraid to admit when they made mistakes. They were not trying to be their kids' best friends and buddies. They knew their role was to help shape their children's character. They could apologize graciously, and all of them, even when they were widowers, my 3 sons, Andy Taylor and Ben Cartwright, always spoke respectfully and lovingly about their wives/children's moms. They also treated women with respect. It's easy to be a good dad on TV, obviously, but I think all of these kind of TV figures, and I include your great example of George Bailey, made you want to be a better parent. They were good role models, and I think it's kind of a shame that we don't see fathers portrayed respectfully much anymore on TV and in the movies. How about that?
I think that's great. I mean, I actually, as I thought about the podcast after we finished, I thought about bringing that kind of into the conversation. We didn't get to it really, but she's absolutely right. Hits it right in the head. I mean, you think about the Al Bundys and the, the, I don't know, King of Queens. I can't think of others just off the top of my head, but poorly portrayed, right? Poorly portrayed, bumbling idiots and loafs and and you think about, back to Ward Cleaver, like solid guys. You're like, I'd follow that guy into battle. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Just solid guys. And it is a shame because I think that has, as it often does, chicken and the egg, cart before the horse, that has made its way into, I think society's view of men and their role in the family. So
right. Moving over another email, Peter Christensen. Dear nerds, happy late Father's Day to both of you. I also got one of those
and to you.
Right. I also got one of those Mad Lib style notes about my dad from my 5-year-old. He says, my name is Dad. He is big inches tall. My dad's favorite thing to do is his job. If my dad had time, he would love to do work at the office. My dad and I like to play with me. I love my dad because he took a video of me. Such fun. He says, and then he goes on to say, I'll put in another candidate for worst movie dad. Ego from, now this is going to be spoilers, so just close your ears for 10 seconds, 15 seconds if you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Ego from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He breeds children across the galaxy, abandons them before birth, hires smuggler mercenaries to kidnap them and traffic them to his planet, pretends to love them until he finds out they don't have powers, at which point he kills them. Or if they do, he stabs them with an energy spike and drains them like a battery so he can consume all the planets in the galaxy. He does not get a mug or a tie this year. Cheers, and thanks for another great episode, Peter. And he says, P.S. Caleb Albers, you think I'm Goose? I'm Viper, baby. You're Jester at best. But I'm bullish on the Avatar sequels, especially with the potential stories the first movie leaves open. I'm just trying to get skeptical Spencer on board.
Oh, that's Jester at best. That's my favorite line of that whole rant.
Right. I'm Viper, baby. You're Jester at best. Anyway, that's Peter Christensen coming in on the email. Let's slide on over to Facebook, and let's start right off with Caleb Albers, because, let's pit them one against another. Caleb Albers says, I'm going to start this off to Peter because his comment made me laugh so hard. So here's a question to you. When has a Hulkbuster been able to do anything other than temporarily subdue the Hulk or mildly inconvenience him? Bring all the Hulkbusters you want. That being said, I do respect your decision for Aquaman. Now, as for the best dad, I'm torn between two, Yondu from the movies and Alfred Pennyworth from the comics. With Yondu, he did anything for a paycheck in his youth, even if it meant taking innocent children to meet their doom. But when it came down to taking Star-Lord to meet Ego, he couldn't do it. His guilt protected Star-Lord, and he broke every Ravager code in order to protect him, no matter the personal cost to himself. In the end, he sacrificed himself to save Star-Lord, even though it meant he'd lose his life in the process. My favorite line was, hey, he may have been your father, boy, but he ain't your daddy. Moving on to Alfred, I like how he never discouraged Bruce Wayne. He always was supportive of what he did, and May at times tried to guide him different directions, but never told him he couldn't do anything. All he really could control, knowing how stubborn a Wayne can be, was how protected he was. Alfred always knew where his boy was, always helped him out, and learned a ton of different skills to help him on a mission to save Gotham. Now he may have been very snarky at times about different things over the years, but he never said no to what was asked of him unless he knew it would bring harm to Bruce Wayne. Also, anyone who would beat up Superman to protect his boy definitely gets a top spot in my book. Looking forward to the episode, guys.
Well said. I like the Alfred. It was a different angle, a different pick, but I liked it.
All right, staying on Facebook. This, for me, has probably got to be the winner of them all, though. Court Fruget. Am I saying that right again? Fruget?
You did. Good job. Yeah.
All right. Court Fruget.
It's French.
You are going to win this one, my friend. Rory Williams was a pretty cool dad to River Song. Now, if you watch Doctor Who, you know who Rory Williams is, and you know who River Song is, and the fact that that was like his reference just like warmed my heart because I loved Doctor Who. I loved the Rory Williams character, and gosh, I mean, I just loved Amy and Rory as the companions, and then their daughter River Song and everything that kind of went on there. So Court wins for me hands down. But let's scroll over to Twitter and see if anyone can take the throne, which I'm going to say is probably not, although my brother does come close. Josh Stapleton at cred_81. Homer J. Simpson. He gave the best advice ever. You tried your best and you failed miserably. The lesson is never try. Geeky Nerd at dspin67. Don Vito Corleone told his son how to find a guy who was going to betray him. No one messes with the Corleones. That is true. Remember that scene? Like
he agreed with you. Huh?
That old scene where he's like, you look for this guy who's doing this, who comes to you from the sides. Like, that's the guy that's going to betray you.
That's true.
It's good advice.
I use that in business even today. I killed somebody last week.
Oh, there you go. He was going to betray you, and you cut him to the quick.
A gun behind the toilet.
Nice. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining in our discussions with, the best TV/movie/podcast/comic book dads. It's kind of fun to do that. I mean, maybe.
I see what you're doing.
But it was a lot of fun talking about that right after Father's Day. And so we appreciate that. Every week we're going to continue to interact with our super friends. You can always respond to our question of the week on Twitter at ForwardOfNerd, Facebook at facebook.com/ForwardOfNerd, or on the email forwardofnerd@gmail.com. Steve, we say this every week because we mean it. We're always looking for more super friends. We want more super friends to join us in the Fortress of Nerditude, to sit back, kick back, and have a good time, and jump in the discussion with us. How can our current super friends help us out?
They can rate us on iTunes, so the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as the Fortress of Solitude.
Going old school, my man.
Yeah, man. I wanted to say as well, just a shout back out to all our listeners and those that commented, those that didn't. Of those that commented and those that I know personally, I can tell you that they are all really good fathers in their own right. I mean, I know them all as good men and people that want to spend time with their kids and take care of their wives and just treat them with respect and love. And it's funny though, you get some of those things like Peter got from his son. Sometimes there's a little twinge of guilt when, my son says, what does your dad like to do when he comes home? Work more on the computer. And I'm like,
right.
Like, what does dad like to do? Or if he could do anything with his free time, go back to the office and work more. You're like,
Cats in the cradle with a silver spoon. Little boy blue and the man and the moon.
I seriously just sang that song to somebody on the same reference yesterday at Portillo's.
Don't know when. Where you gonna be, Dad, boy?
Which makes me get choked up, but it's so true. Like, and from their young eyes, they see you work all the time, and that's the majority of what you do. And so it just makes it so much more important that when they say, "Hey, Dad, can you come play with me?" you say yes. So anyway, thanks for the comments.
They ask you,
guys.
Ray, if you're a god, you say yes.
I was going for that reference.
It's actually funny you kind of brought that up because the other day I actually I've been doing a lot of work from home the last week or two, checking in on some backups and whatnot remotely. And it's like I sit down at the computer and Charlie's like, "Daddy, are you working again at the computer? I'm like, yep, that's what I'm doing, buddy. It's like now every time I sit down, he's like, are you working? I'm like, well, I mean, I'm just kind of doing some prep for the podcast. I mean, I don't know if that counts as work. He's like, Daddy, do you want to play with me? I'm like, hold on, son. I got to get Rebel Intelligence ready. No. I mean, I go play with him.
I got to research this wood burning thing, son. Just cats in the cradle in the soup.
Right. Daddy needs to practice his new hobby.
I ain't got time for you, son. But I'll make you a nice plaque.
Right. Here's a plaque to commemorate all the time I spent doing other things.
It's sad because it's true.
On this day, I spent time not with you, but I made this plaque
to commemorate the time I didn't spend with you. Fly high like an eagle.
Wow. Oh, that's too funny. Well, anyway.
Well,
that was a lot of fun. Let me ask you this, Steve. I've kind of had this like thought that like we should have this conversation. There's been a lot of things recently because I find as, you know, kind of still talking about being a father, right? I find that as being a dad, like I do try to balance like my time with, you know, my kids and my wife, work, but like I have interests. I mean, obviously, like we're doing a podcast where we talk about our love of nerd and pop culture, right? We talk about movies and books and TV and video games and, you know, things that we're doing and things that interest us, hobo coins and pyrography and, you know, all this other stuff, right?
Right.
But I find that because of that, like, obviously, like you can't stay up to date on everything, right? There's just no way. I mean, so much is going on. So there's lots of times where like I get into things, but like maybe I get into them like a little later than everyone else.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's like I've got a backlog of like, hey, like currently I'm watching The Flash, but I watched these crossover episodes of Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and The Arrow. And so it's like, okay, now I want to go watch those. And it's like, I've got 4 more seasons of Arrow to watch. I've got 2 seasons of Supergirl and 2 seasons of Legends of Tomorrow. I'm like, I got 8 seasons of like TV to watch. Is like, what? But I realized like, yes,
your wife's going out of town.
Right. Except she wants to watch it with me, man. But the point is like I want to do that, but like, I'm going to have to watch it on Netflix. I'm going to have to watch it after the fact. And so like, it'll probably be like 5 years from now. And like, I'll just be finishing getting caught up on stuff that's like current now. And that seems to be kind of a thing for me recently. Just because of, you know, being a father and doing, you know, all the things I'm doing. Do you find that seems to be the same case for you?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like I'm so behind. I just got a pair of Doc Martens. Actually,
Hello, 1992.
Right, exactly. But no, I empathize and feel the same way. And let me just say this as well, to just kind of back up a second. Like, I think it's very good, to have your own hobbies, right?
Sure.
I mean, you can't be 110% devoted to your children, or else you lose who you are. And that's not a good thing. And
it's also mathematically incorrect.
I don't know.
You can't devote 110% of your time to anything.
Look, I was a communications major. You don't bring that stuff up, man.
2 plus 2 does not equal blue.
But I often wonder, you know, if we almost sometimes spend too much time devoted to our kids and with our kids and stuff where they don't have, you know, simple things. They don't have the chance to go out and just be, you know, just explore and just, you know, like, just, you know, develop themselves as well. Cause we're too much, you know, like maybe we need to be more like a Ward Cleaver dad instead of like a mamsy-pamsy, you know, helicopter dad.
Right. Well, I mean, there was an article I did read like a while back, and maybe it's been shared on social media and that's why I'm thinking of it, but like, don't like do everything for your kids, and like don't plan out every single minute of their day during the summertime. Like, they need to have time just to like run around and play. Like this weekend, while I was working on the garage for 2 days and like the yard, because we had to do a bunch of yard work, like Brita was like working on like cleaning some of the house and like getting projects ready for getting some things ready for their trip up to Montana. Like, we didn't really schedule like much play time for the boys. We just let them play, and we just let them run around the house and like they played with toys and they made up little games and they sang songs and they got in fights and, they followed us around and, just did all the things. But like, I didn't feel the need to like plan out every minute of their day. So like, today I was like, oh, we cleaned off the water table and, put it out back for them and sat out there and like let them play in the water table. And we all kind of talked and were there, and like, obviously we went to church with them today, but like, that was really like the only, and I guess I did take them to Toys R Us yesterday afternoon, to get them like a little special present to take with them to Montana to kind of help with the car trip, cause it's like a 14-hour car trip for them. But that was like it, like those were like the only like 3 things like we scheduled to do like with the kids, and we just let them kind of hang out and run around and play and do whatever they wanted to do. And I think kids need that. Absolutely. Not all the time, because then it's Lord of the Flies. That's what's this week. Right. I'm just saying, if he puts a pig head on a staff, run.
But so I totally agree. Media-wise, I totally agree. And there are a lot of things that I'm probably way backlogged on and that are in my queue. But sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. I'm like, where do you start?
Right.
What are some things like that for you that I mean, you talked about obviously about Supergirl and The Arrow and,
sure.
and some other things.
I mean,
what are some things maybe historically that have been that?
Oh, let's see here. Like I end up with a lot of like video games for me that are like backlogged, because I find that like video games that are short, like right now I've been playing like the NBA Playgrounds on the Nintendo Switch quite a bit, because it's kind of like NBA Jam, right? It's like an arcade, 2-on-2 arcade style basketball game. Like I can like drop in like 2 or 3 quick games in the course of like, 10 minutes. And then I can bounce and go do back to whatever I needed to do, or the next thing on my list that evening or whatever.
There's no storyline. There's no theme plot.
Right. But like sometimes with video games, like I'll get like, I want to play this or, whatever. Brita loves to bring up the fact that there was this game that she listened to a podcast. It was on the Nerdist, and it was with Ken Levine, and he was like the kind of the creator of this studio and the game called BioShock Infinite. And she heard about this thing. She's like, you got to play this. And she like made me go out and buy it. And so I went out and like bought the game when it was used. Like we didn't pay full price, but like it still was like another 18 months before I got around to actually playing the game. And then when I got around to playing the game, like she watched me play the game because she was the one that really was excited to see this thing. And I was kind of like, yeah. So I kind of wasn't super enthused. But then I played the game and like I loved it, and we loved the art style, and the gameplay was a lot of fun, and the story was really interesting. And when the game ended, I was like, wait, what? What just happened? And like I had to go like watch a YouTube video to like make sure like I caught all the little things that happened at the end and how they kind of tied up the story. And like we ended up talking about that game for probably like the next few weeks. And then, of course, like I wanted to go and talk about it with all these people online, all my friends that play video games. But like they finished the game like 2 years earlier, right? And I'm like, who do I talk to about this? Because like it was a fantastic, phenomenal game. But because of dad responsibilities, I got to it later. So that's always kind of like for me, like
no one to talk to about it.
Right. That's the downside. I'm like, who am I going to talk to? I'm like, I want to talk about this game. No one. Oh, okay.
No one cares.
Yeah. So I end up having that like a lot in video games, like the video game The Last of Us. I did not play it when it first came out on the PS3. I kind of wasn't playing a lot of PS3 games at the time. And then when I got my PS4, I was like, I really want to play that Last of Us game. That kind of looks cool. Now, of course, everyone else had played it, but they remastered it. They put it on the PS4, and then I've played that game like 3 times.
That's the zombie apocalypse one, right?
Yes.
It's a really good story.
Yes. It's hands down one of my favorite video games of all time. And so like I always want, like anyone brings that game up, and if like they've barely played it or just now getting around to it like I did kind of after the fact, I'm always game to like talk about that video game because I loved it. But I mean, that's always the thing. It's like if I get into it, it's like really good. It's hard to talk to people like, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I saw that movie, but that was like 7 years ago. It's like, yeah, sorry.
And let me ask you this as well. I mean, does it get to the point sometimes where you're kind of almost too far gone? You're like, that ship has sailed. I'm not going to try to jump on the bandwagon. Like, it's over. I just cut my losses and move on.
I think that may be true in video games only if it's on a console that now is like not the active console. It's like not the current generation. Right. So like I wouldn't go back and try to play a PS2 game that I missed because it's too far back, and like just to make that work and the graphics and whatnot, like, you know, but if it was a game where like I played like more current versions of that game and I wanted to see the original, like I may try to make it work. But as far as like TV, because of Netflix and like Hulu and Amazon Prime, like you can always go back and rewatch TV stuff or movies. Like you can always go, like Cheers. Like Cheers is a great example. Like that's still a funny show today.
Right.
You know, obviously some of the references may be a little dated, but Ghostbusters, the original, is an amazing movie. Just like comedically, it's amazing. If the movie looks a little dated, but like the humor is like still super funny. So like if you were just seeing it now for the first time, you'd be fine.
Because I kind of feel like, and I wasn't planning to talk about this or even thought about this until you kind of articulated it, but I kind of feel like that's what happened to me with video games. I kind of feel like, you know, I got married. I remember you and Josh got me like the Xbox for my wedding gift, actually, which is the best wedding gift ever.
Boom.
Freaking beats a Cuisinart. But, you know, so I had that and I played it, but as responsibilities became more and, you know, the kids started coming and whatnot, I just didn't find the time. I still love video games. I mean, I played them all growing up, but it just kind of dropped off of my priority list. And then I just never got back on. Right. And so we haven't bought a console besides the Wii since the Xbox, the original Xbox. And, you know, the games that I did play, I mean, the last like theme game I've played was like Splinter Cell, like on Xbox.
Right.
Which was a fantastic game and I loved it, but wow, like it was an investment in time, you know, and yeah, so I never jumped back on that train. And so for me, that ship had sailed. I'm just like, you know what? It can't be part of my life. It can't.
Well, and I'll disagree that it can't be part of your life, but I think that I understand what you're saying, because for me, it's like, that's The Simpsons. Like The Simpsons was a massive part of my life. Loved that TV show. And then I just got to a point when I was like, I got into college and like, I was so busy and like, I couldn't ever find time to like watch it when it was live. And then like after a few seasons of not being able to see it, like it just kind of fell out with me. Now I love The Simpsons and I think they're funny. And I'm sure that if I were to like pick up The Simpsons, like I could watch it and still enjoy it. But it's been like a decade or more since I've watched anything current on The Simpsons. Even though I watched like the first 15 or 16 seasons or whatever straight, you know, never missing. But yeah, things happen. But I think with the video games, like I think where you could pick back up into video games would be with the Nintendo Switch, because it's portable and you could also dock it. And it's like you could play it on the TV, and it's got a lot of games that are like designed to be like social games, kind of like the Wii in a way. It's like where you could play it with the kids. Like you could get into Mario Kart because it doesn't have to be like an episodic game or, you know, story-driven game where you've got to like spend, you know, 20 hours to get through this game and experience this wonderful story. You just jump on, you do some racing, you do a little battling, you jump back off. Same, kind of like the whole thing I was telling you with like NBA Playgrounds. But,
right.
You know, just jump in, get some, have some fun times. But honestly, I think for you to do that, it's going to be once Carter is ready to have something like that in the house, and he's ready to play like the Nintendo Switch. And then it'll be like hey, I used to play, you know, a lot when I was a kid, and kind of have that father-son bonding time doing that together. But yeah, I don't see you at this point just like jumping in and be like, I'm going to go buy a PS4 Pro and I'm going to go get the Uncharted series and I'm going to go get The Last of Us. As much as I would love for you to do that and be able to talk to you about some of that kind of stuff, I understand like at this point in your life, that's probably not in the cards. But when Carter gets something like that and gets games you can just like jump in and out, like Rocket League, you know, something fast, that's where I see you being able to like get some time in every once in a while.
Yeah. The one things, as we've kind of talked about this conversation, the one thing that kind of stands out in my mind are the two series, I guess, that I was late to the party but really enjoyed. One was Lost. Lost, I was probably like a season and a half maybe behind as I started watching it, but I loved. I mean, got into that. Everybody's talking about what is this? And it was always one of those things.
Do
you couldn't just
do you remember the numbers?
No. Good golly, no.
4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42.
Wow. Yeah, but you have them tattooed on your forearm, so that's not fair.
That is true. I am looking at it.
But so that series, and that was one where everybody was talking about it. And I thought that I'd missed the train because you can't just pick up knowing what the smoke monster is and the numbers mean and all the backstories and all that. But went back, watched it, and ended up loving that series. The other one, which was similar, was 24, and I think there was a time when you and I binge watched that
whole
one
season.
Before binge watching was a thing.
Yeah.
We're like, one more episode, one more. It's 4 a.m. One more.
Right. Yep. I remember that.
And so we started watching that. Then my wife got into it. Carrie got into it. She started kind of at the beginning. I think she skipped the first season, but picked up at the second, which the first season was great. And started watching it together. And it wasn't until, I don't remember which 5th or 6th season it was, but when Jack Kiefer Sutherland gets he's in some Chinese prison, and the first episode of that season was he's on the floor, he's got this big beard, and one of his captors comes to take him, and suddenly he riles around and bites the guy's jugular off with his mouth and pulls it off, and all this blood's Carrie's we're done. Because she would get so anxious that afterwards she would be really aggressive. Not abusive, but just really wound up and stuff. We'd still be watching it today if that but so she's I've got to stop this. She's it is crack cocaine for me, and it gets me really agitated and I get really mean. So we had to forego the rest of the 24.
You guys stopped 24 to save your marriage.
Just say right, exactly. To make sure she didn't start mailing bombs to people and playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Right. Well, I think the nice thing is back in the day, if you wanted to binge watch something to get caught up, you had to go buy the DVDs and then watch that, the season or 2 seasons kind of during the off season, so that you'd be ready to get caught up. Because I know a lot of people did that with The Office, because The Office was 6 episodes the first season. It was a mid-season replacement, and then the second season started, and that's when a lot of people kind of jumped on the bandwagon. So they had to go down to Walmart or Target and buy the first season, the 6 episodes, and that's how I got into it. Was kind of that idea. But nowadays though, you got Netflix or Hulu, so you can go and binge watch an entire season and then just wait a few months, and then you're caught up with everyone else, and you can jump into season 2 or season 3. So it's a little different now. Technology, I think, has helped people get caught up. But I mean, there's been stuff I've slept on, like I told you, famously, I had no interest in seeing the Iron Man movie, the first one. And my mom was you gotta see this. This is great. And I was I don't know. But then I did it, and I haven't missed a Marvel movie since. But let me ask you this, Steve. Do you feel when something's really big, like Breaking Bad, right? Breaking Bad, when that was going, everyone's talking about it, it's kind of the water cooler TV show or whatever. If you're not watching, do you kind of I don't know what the right word is, but you almost don't want to watch it out of spite.
Oh yeah.
Because you're you guys are not including me, so I'm totally gonna boycott this. So I that's stupid. I'm not gonna watch that.
Reverse diss.
Right.
Yeah. I did the same thing with The Walking Dead. I was just I'm not watching this. Zombies.
Didn't you also do that with Harry Potter?
I'm a dang adult. Harry Potter, Doc Martens, Swatches, JanSport backpacks, and fidget spinners. Yeah. Pretty much.
Oh, I'm totally down with the fidget spinner crap. I'm totally boycotting that. Yeah.
I actually just bought, the reason I brought that up is I was going to bring it up later. I just bought 3 of them at Walmart.
Why?
Yesterday. I don't know. I was just you know what?
I don't know. You were there I don't know. They've got them. I haven't seen them anywhere else. I better get them. They're going to sell out.
Get them while they're hot. Yeah, right. I'm the exact opposite of get it while they're hot. It's get it when they're totally on the downswing and they're totally out of fad now.
Are you just getting into slap bracelets?
I got some sweet stonewashed jeans, and Yeah, it's funny. But it's funny, like, how styles do that. Like, these mom jeans are coming back. Like, these really high-riding, like, thin-waist jeans. You see those? Like, the girls, oh my gosh.
Yeah, not a fan.
I'm like, girls, you realize those are mom jeans. Like, now they're Daisy Duke style mom jeans, but they look horrible on you.
Yeah.
They don't, they unflatter all of the beautiful parts of your body. Like, don't wear that crap. I tell you.
Wait till you become a mama, and then you can wear that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You have to wear them with, like, white Reeboks, though.
Right.
And a blouse.
Kids.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there anything else, like, you can think of, like, though, that you've, like, slept on or, like, just didn't get into right away, but then you did get into it and you were like, this is amazing?
I mean, Stranger Things. I mean, I've talked about that. I beat that horse to death. But yeah, that was one where, everybody's talking about it. I kind of, it seems weird. It seems whatever. And I got into it and I was like, that's what they were talking about. Pass me the Kool-Aid because I'm drinking up. Bottoms up.
Right.
Here we go.
Okay. Now I've got one that, like, everyone talked about. Everyone was, like, talking this thing up. And so I was late to the party. I tried it and I was like, why was everyone in love with this thing? Like, this isn't that great. The Sopranos.
Really?
We ended up getting, like, HBO a number of years ago, and I was like, okay, I'm going to see kind of what this was all about. Now, this is after, like, I've watched, like, The Wire, which was an HBO show, which was excellent.
Uh-huh.
But, like, I kind of talked about, it's like kind of like a slow build. It's after The Shield, which was on FX, and I loved The Shield, but that was like in your face, dirty, corrupt cops, and Yep. It was like a lot of action and a lot of drama. And so, like, I'd already kind of seen, like, newer, like, I was already watching, like, Sons of Anarchy. But I was like, I'll go back and I'll try The Sopranos. Everyone talked about it. Everyone said it was so good. And, like, I watched maybe, like, 2 or 3 seasons of it on my HBO Go. Like, I would watch, like, an episode on my phone on my lunch break, like, every day for, like,
You're, like, force-feeding yourself. You're like, I will watch this and I will.
I was just kind of like, it's okay, but I don't get why everyone's like, this is the best show. Like, why they were, like, all crazy about it. And I just got to a point where I was like, it felt slow. It didn't feel exciting. Like, there wasn't, like you'd see a hit happen, but it would be like everyone, I'm expecting this to be like a TV version of, like, Goodfellas, where, like, that's, like,
right.
fast paced and there's stuff going on and it's like, yeah, hey, this is going on, and, like, kind of like almost like insider information onto, like, the mob, kind of like, told through the eyes of a character. Instead, it was like Tony Soprano sitting down with his therapist, and I was like, it just didn't get me.
That may be part because of just how old. I mean, when that started, that was what,
early 2000s.
Yeah, so when you're watching Sons of Anarchy and Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, and then you, like, go back to watch The Sopranos, yeah, I'm sure it was kind of a snooze fest.
Yeah, but I mean, would
Godfather kind of seem like a snooze fest too? I mean, even though it's a classic film,
okay. I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I mean, that really is a good question. Like, if I were seeing The Godfather now for the first time, would I find it slow or not? So, that's a fair question. I don't know. But all I know is, like,
montage of when Michael's blessing the baby and they're making all those hits. That's awesome. But
right, or when Sonny gets gunned down on the parkway. Ooh. I mean,
that I saw that when I was way too young. I'm like, it still haunts me. I can't go through toll booths.
Right, like, just throw the change and keep driving.
Just keep driving.
Don't stop. Don't stop.
One of the things for me though that was a late. A late get on the train was, which turned out to be awesome. I'm so glad I did. And I came to understand, as opposed to The Sopranos, I'm like, yeah, I can see why this was the cult classic following. Arrested Development.
Oh, yes. Me too.
I watched the whole season, like, years after it was, it had come out. And I was like, this is freaking genius.
Right.
So.
And that's like one of those shows, like Arrested Development, Firefly, like shows that I, like, loved, but I got into them later and they didn't get a following initially. So they got pulled. So they didn't, they didn't go, like, long term. It's like, it's a shame because, like Family Guy kind of did the same thing. Like, it just wasn't doing great. So it got pulled, then had amazing DVD sales when a lot more people found it. And then they were able to bring it back. So I think that like nowadays there's so much, let's be honest, there's just so much media to consume. There's so many different ways you can be doing things, and everyone's got their lives. And so sometimes it just takes you a while to get around things. I mean, that's why people talk about, having a backlog of movies or backlog of TV or backlog of video games to get through.
Right.
Because there are things they want to see or play or experience, but they just can't, find time.
Not enough hours in the day, man.
Right. So
even if you can fast forward through the commercials.
Right. Which is why I like Netflix. No commercials.
Right.
I'll actually sometimes
Very cool.
if I get caught up on something and I was like, I've got 3 episodes left. I could actually go back and watch it on the cable, and I could use the on demand on the cable and get caught up on the show. It's like, I'll just wait a couple months and then I'll hit Netflix and I don't have to worry about fast forwarding.
It just feels weird, right? I'm like,
Right.
it feels almost like antiquated to be like, go back to cable and what?
Yeah.
I want what I want now, how I want it, and when I want it.
Right. So, Steve, basically, this whole conversation brings me back to this one thought. I'm hoping that we've got people, and I know we've got a lot of super friends that are listening, but I'm hoping that there's just a lot of people out there that are going to finally get caught up with us and get around to their, backlog. I'm like, hey, Fortress and Nerditude podcast. I've been watching that. Let me go back to episode 1, Reginald Vell Johnson, and I'll start from the beginning, and I'll just do some binge listening.
Wait a minute, this was an hour and 45-minute commercial? Be sure to drink your Ovaltine? I feel lied to. You just said you wanted to talk, Spence. No, it's funny because I actually, the same conversation at Portillo's that I was referencing earlier when I sang Cats in the Cradle, a friend of mine, Dave Anderson, shout out Dave Anderson, he is a new super friend. He just found us about a month ago, and he's listened to about 8 episodes, loves it. He says, I love having Steve in my pocket. I'm like, oh, that's weird. No,
right. You're like, maybe put that a different way.
He's like, because we moved away, and so unfortunately, I'm a bit of a geographic friend, where unless I'm near you, I don't know you. So, anyway, so he's like, it's just good to hear your voice, And so he's 8 episodes in. He's like, I love it. So he's kind of binge
now.
listening.
Did he start at the beginning with Reginald Vell Johnson, episode 1?
He did.
So he's just finished Nintendo, which was the first time Josh Stapleton appeared on the podcast.
Ajlo Noodle Pats?
Yeah. No, Mr. Noodle Pats is his biggest fan in Norway.
That's right. I always forget. Yes.
Not to get the two confused.
Well, so I wish the same. I wish the same that people find us, they love us, and they
binge listen
their ears with us.
Right.
Yeah. But let's talk about this. So we always obviously end the show with a question for our super friends, and I think going along with this theme of past loves or past listens or things that you've missed or things that you've maybe a late adopter to, like me and Doc Martens. I think the question should be kind of down that alley.
Yeah.
Maybe what's something that you guys have either passed up and maybe regret, but have never jumped on the train, or something that you were late adopting, but once you got on the train, you got to the engine and started driving the train.
I like that. I think that's a great question. So, respond to us all the usual places: Twitter @FortofNerd, Facebook, facebook.com/FortofNerd, or email fortofnerd@gmail.com, and let us know. What is something that you were a late adopter to that you got on board and are now driving the train, or something that you just let pass you by and maybe wished that you hadn't? And we will talk about it next week, which actually is going to feel like 2 weeks from now, but it's really just going to be 1 week because of the way the podcast releases. But Steve, man, I'm going to miss you. I'm not going to get a chance to talk to you on our normal day, and it's going to be weird.
I have literally 5 pounds of beef jerky. I surely hope that a bear doesn't get hungry, smell my teriyaki and sweet and sour, and come my way. And maybe Ajlo Noodle Pats can be a more often featured guest
right.
in my absence.
Well, stay safe away from those bears up in Wisconsin. I hear that they're very big fans of cheese.
Yeah, right. Right. All right. Well, friends, we'll see you in about a week and a half then. And to all our friends everywhere across the globe and maybe in Interstellar, may the Force be with you. always.